have to start all over.
A likely story.
Yeah, I forgot to.
You didn't record that?
I didn't record it. No, we were only streaming. Have to start all over. So, want to introduce or shall I introduce?
You do. Okay. You weren't recording.
I forgot to hit the button. I had everything set up.
Well, is it
So
recording
those
now?
of you on the stream, you heard it. But those of you...
I don't see any record button.
I wonder if it's... I think... Yeah, it's recording. Okay. I goofed up here. We were streaming from rabbitholecentral.tv here at MNN, but I forgot to hit the record button. And we're going to have to go through a little bit of that again. But I'm joined here by Ugly George, and this is my farewell to Manhattan Neighborhood Network for 3 weeks because I'm going to California. And when I come back, we're going to talk more about the Ugly George show in the past and some of the plans that we have for the future. I think it's worth it to talk about the Polish penthouse again, or you don't want to recapitulate?
No, but again, BoobTube is a pseudo-documentary, 80-minute long DVD, and it's available in Barnes & Noble, online at Amazon, MTV.com, MTV.com, buy.com. It's in Australia. It's in euros. In Europe, okay, in Canada at the Indigo stores, Tiger Direct, Movie Phone, etc., etc. It's on a lot of websites. So it's a tribute to Paula and her brainy friends. That's why it's called BoobTube, okay? All right? And no intellectuals are allowed to watch it, because they would be highly offended.
One thing that's interesting, if you look on the websites, you'll see that people advertise from all spectrums, political spectrums.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The conservatives, the liberals.
Yeah.
You know, I think, what did you have?
We had the Republican National Convention and the Rolling Stones.
Right, all on the same page. So it's interesting to see how the marketers are looking at this. What was so charming about the Ugly George show, or I think what was so effective about it, was because it was a real story. In many ways, people say it was the first reality TV, because George here actually would go out not knowing, not scripted, not with lots of makeup, not with lots of cameras, lights and things, just himself, and convince women in the liberated 60s or 80s to, how do you say it, to express their...
Yeah, and sometimes not convince them. Those were known as misses.
Miss.
Yes, and the misses were the ones, my boyfriend won't let me do it, my husband won't let me do it, my acting coach won't let me do it, my dog won't let me do it, okay? So they always had a reason why. They went on to the obscurity they deserved, okay? The ones who did do it became famous like you wouldn't believe. Now, a lot of people said that was analog videotape from the past, and it was. But now we have the internet. Amazingly, it's showing up again on BoobTube, as I explained to you, okay?
Oh, so people uploaded some episodes?
No, BoobTube is a lot of the episodes from the past, but carefully cultivated. Okay? We didn't have...
Is it PG?
It's whatever you want to call it, okay? If you're a commie pinko, you can't watch it anyway. But anyway, it was the kind of thing that got Ugly George thrown off the air in that most liberal of loudmouth cities, San Francisco. Ugly George
KPIX.
Was thrown off KPIX.
That's my hometown.
Taping a show at KPIX, and they said, Ugly George said the C word. Oh my God, oh, we can't air this in San Francisco. And Paula will tell you what the C word is.
Well, when I said it in the privacy of my own apartment...
No, don't say that word on the air. Well, what was the actual C word that got me thrown off?
The actual C word was chick. That's
Chicks.
Why he got kicked off of KPIX.
Right.
So this was the advent of feminism, and I think a sort of a destructive aspect. Actually.
Yes, it was lesbian feminism who said we can put cupcakes on and only refer to females as women. I said, even 3-month-old females? Yes, they're little women. Don't call them girls, because that's insulting.
And he was using the expression goyles for the accent. Where is that accent?
Brooklyn.
Okay.
Accent. Amazingly, I just got a little clip last night of Al Smith, who ran for president twice, okay? And he says that. All right?
You know, because we have viewers now. I have a lot of viewers in India, and they're not going to know what a Brooklyn accent is. Brooklyn is one of the 5 boroughs in New York City. Manhattan is one of the boroughs. But people in Brooklyn word?
Well, it was the Foist borough. You know the Foist?
Really?
Okay, yes. Not the
Foist.
second
That's first.
Toyd. All right? You know, Toity, Toyd, and Toyd. All right, that's Brooklyn. All right?
No, this is the amazing thing about the internet. A lot of people are outside of America. They won't know about the New York accent.
Okay, well, this
So
accent
listen, students.
was very big for 100 years. People in Brooklyn had their own way of pronouncing English, okay? And it was called Brooklynese. And it still exists, it's still around, and there are still many clips from the past about Goyles. I didn't invent that. Everybody in Brooklyn said Goyles, okay?
Yeah.
So now they're coming back and they're bigger than ever. All right?
But from the article I read, you were criticized for using that word. Was it because it was girls or because it was Goyles?
I was criticized by an intellectual person at the New York Times named John O'Connor of strange sexual orientation. Strange, who said, oh, he says New Yorkese, he says Goyles and Woiled. Oh, how awful. Now this O'Connor, of course, was an intellectual, so he was offended. What he's really offended was breasts. He said, Ugly George has tiresome interest in breasts. So we can tell what O'Connor had an interest in, and it wasn't Goyles at all. But that's who becomes television critics, right? Okay.
Something I might keep you up to date on. I did a show with Patience Poet, and she's a lady in San Bernardino who's fighting the child care courts about pedophilia.
Yeah.
So I know that you had strong feelings about that. You can check some of the past shows with George, and hopefully what we can do is just sort of give the viewers what they want and lift them up so that we can enjoy each other's energies, not abuse each other or take advantage of each other, but stimulate each other.
Well, you know that the Pope in his recent visit, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times, mentioned pedophilia in the Catholic Church. And it was always about one type of pet, of children. And what was that one type?
Little girls, right?
Never little girls. Never little girls. It was always little boys, i.e. altar boys. The Catholic Church has never allowed altar girls.
Oh, I see.
Okay? Because Catholic priests are not interested in little girls for anything. Okay? But boys, that's different. So the Pope, 4 times in his recent visit, Benedict, mentioned very seriously the historical problem of the Catholic Church and little boys, pedophilia. Okay? They are losing every case in the court that's being brought up. They put aside hundreds of $millions for pedophilia. So the next moron liar who says to me, now about little girls, I say, what about the 4 zillion cases about little boys?
Oh, so you're meaning little boys haven't been protected enough?
Little boys have been totally ignored by the press for some amazing reason, which John O'Connor can't figure out. Why they don't want to talk about homosexuals and little boys. John O'Connor, the TV critic of the New York Times, never wants to talk about that. Okay?
Well, here's what I'm interested in. Let's trust the viewers. Let's trust the hits. Let's trust the pattern, and that people will do the right thing if you don't sort of subvert and repress the energies. Like, I'm not going to say that homosexuality is bad, but one does see these patterns of, when it's in the case of abuse, that if you've been abused as a child, there's a very good chance that when you grow up, that type of activity you find stimulating. And that's what I think we want to put our attention on and see if we can end abuse and move into stimulation. And that's why on Howard Stern I called my show Total Penetration, because it's very good to have a connection and a deep exchange with another.
And it's very good that the Boston Archdiocese has set aside hundreds of millions of dollars and has lost every single case brought by a child at the time, who is now a man, against the Catholic Church when he was abused by Catholic priests in the Boston Archdiocese.
But how do you see the healing? Money's not everything, and I would refer you to the show that I did with Josh Walensky and Ugly George.
Yeah.
And also I did one with Ugly George and Dan Coughlin, and that's going to be played as a filler on MNN. So if you're watching this on MNN, you might stay tuned for that, or you might even see that in hours past my hours.
Now, let me tell you why I mention this. All of you out there remember Roman Polanski. who has been in exile from the United States, where he made some of the greatest hits in history. He's been in exile for 35 years. And why? Because he had willing sex with a young girl. He didn't rape her. She wanted to. Okay?
How old was she?
13.
She wanted
but
to.
She wanted to. Okay? So here's Roman Polanski. Oh my God, it's got to be all over the news. We got to talk about it endlessly. The judge has now been seen to be a fink who was just out to get publicity for himself. One guy, one girl. Okay? Talked about forever. Sentenced to exile from the United States. I don't ask. I demand that we exile every Catholic priest who's now convicted of pedophilia. And you know what? We ain't going to have any Catholic priests left.
You think so? Oh.
Okay? And that's probably a good thing.
No, we can have different strategies and different perceptions, but I think the important thing is to put it out all on the table. And like Rosalie said, Web Fairy, when I looked around a room, I think it was a room, we were thinking torture and the rise of the American Empire, something like that. And she was fixing up the DVDs for this. And she reminded me that probably the great percentage of people in that room, the men, probably did watch the Ugly George show.
And what Rosalie said was,
so
we should
not be hypocrites.
exile every Catholic priest back to Ireland, where they came from. Okay?
She didn't say that. She didn't.
Yes,
and the thing is, we were talking to Josh. I said, is this only existing among the Catholics? I mean, are there any Jewish pedophiles? And I'm into healing. I'm into making connections with everyone, and I don't look on anything as a lost cause. I think the power of our love and our focus can address that.
The first way we do the healing is have the Catholic Church give back the many billions it got in tax-exempt money over the years, okay, while the priests were institutionally molesting boys, okay? Have them give back that money.
I know you have a lot of energy on this, George. Do you think that somebody, oftentimes, yes, it's claimed people are born homosexual. Do you think a young boy who wasn't born that way could be inclined that way because of this abuse?
He could be turned that way by priests.
You think so?
It's not that I think so. They're losing every case in the courts. And the answer was always the same.
Because you're changing the genetics?
The answer was always the same. Little boy, I am a man much older than your father or grandfather, but I want to have some kind of sex with you, little boy. And the little boy quite rightly says, but father, why should I do this? I don't like this. Why should I do it? And what was the answer? Because the Virgin Mary wants you to do it. God wants you to do it. Okay? So it wasn't I, Father Patrick Quinn, want you to do it. It's the Virgin Mary says to do it.
Okay, now I have to step up here. We did a show with Joe Vittello, and Joe Vittello was living in the Bronx after World War II. And he was playing with some children in the loft, and they all saw the Virgin Mary. He didn't. And then one of them said, pray like you really want to. And he didn't really know the rosary. He wasn't really good in catechism, but he was an open-hearted kid, and he did that. And then she talked to him and said that for the next 16 days she was going to be coming down. And by the 16th day, there were 30,000 people gathered, and there were amazing healings. Now, I have that interview posted, and at first, just because I was talking about the Virgin Mary, he automatically assumed I was Catholic. He wasn't too sure about me having gone to India. And just the night before, he has some type of communication with her, but he doesn't see her like he did when he was a child, and his heart's broken because it was such a great experience. He lives for this experience again.
Sure.
But he was saying that she must speak all the languages of the world. It was like that dawned on him for the first time.
Well, of course, what your brainy viewers haven't figured out is, why doesn't the Virgin Mary ever appear to anyone except lower-class Catholics? Garbage, scum, sheep.
Why?
Lower-class Catholics.
Why?
Because they're the ones that are conditioned. Okay? The Greeks have a nice word, orthodox. Orthos means correct, dox means something like the worship of God. Okay? You know what? The Virgin Mary has never appeared to any Orthodox person.
No, that's not true. In Satan, she appeared to Muslims and she appeared to Coptics. and it was a great appearance. But the point is, here's the point, George.
Yeah.
He was saying, and this was a really good-hearted guy. He's in his 60s now.
A lower-class Catholic.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, lower-class sheep.
But what he was saying was, regarding the pedophilia, I started to bring it up because this was really lively in the church at that time and in the world's awareness.
No, only for
and
150 years.
He said it was the work of the devil. Now, I didn't know if he meant it was the work of the devil that people were thinking that such a thing could happen, or if he meant it was the work of the devil that it actually happened.
I'll try again for the 10th time. The Catholic Church is losing every single case. It has no defense whatsoever against the true charges, which have been proven over and over again, of institutionalized pedophilia against boys, always against boys, for 150 years. Now it's coming out. What we want to know is, where was the press on this issue for 139 years? It wasn't anywhere. And in fact, it covered it up. The press was very well aware of the institutionalized pedophilia of the Catholic Church.
Well, why do you think they covered it up, George?
Because the Catholic Church are voters.
They go to hell?
Voters, okay? And when you had garbage, as you do in New York, voting Tammany, Tammany. For the morons out there, Tammany means the Democratic Party, the low-class Democratic Party. Get it? Low-class Catholic sheep, low-class Tammany. And they were told from the pulpit, never required to register as political agents, by the way, you must vote Tammany slate. Okay? This Tuesday, only Tammany. No Republicans. Don't ever vote for a Republican. Don't for a conservative. Don't vote for a libertarian. Don't vote for anything. Only the party where you see the donkey, which says something about the Catholic mind. Okay? So Tammany Hall.
That's a real energy.
Tammany Hall is the New York version of the machine. Get it? The political machine. The bosses. In every other city, like Prendergast in Kansas City, like the Curly machine in Boston, it was named after the boss. I met a dim-witted intellectual actress in the street named Shirley MacLaine.
What is
okay?
Yeah.
And what did I say to this dim-witted, dreamy intellectual? Move it to the left, much more to the left. Okay? I said, hey, MacLaine, do you remember when your purse was searched at the 1968 Democratic Convention in Chicago? By who? Boss Daley. And she was clearly embarrassed. She said, oh, I had forgotten about that. I threw that out of my mind. She was searched. Abe Ribicoff was very mad, the governor of Connecticut. But her purse was searched together with everybody else. And she was stunned. She said, but I'm a liberal Hollywood intellectual. How can you search my purse? And Boss Daley, the Chicago version of Tammany Hall, said, we search everybody here. We don't trust nobody. Okay? And he was boss. He was even called boss. In Boston, it was called Curly, Philip Michael Curly. He was called boss. In New York, Carmine DeSapio was called boss. Get it? DeSapio. All right? In every city in which you had a big Catholic population, you had the machine, the democratic machine. The democratic machine was the Catholic Church, which was the cops, the firemen, the street sweepers, etc., etc., etc. Okay? It was the same thing. Get it? They were never asked or allowed to vote Republican. They were never allowed to talk about being a Republican. It was only Democratic. And this machine just ground on and on and on. And there was a so-called reform mayor of New York, who's the most famous mayor of New York, and he claimed that he was going to put it in his place. He was never able to. His name, of course, was LaGuardia, Fiorello LaGuardia.
Really?
And LaGuardia couldn't put the Tammany machine in its place.
Really?
Okay? Because Tammany was just too powerful. No one was going to get elected mayor of New York without Tammany, even John Lindsay.
Even John Lindsay?
Yes.
And John Lindsay who put public access together,
yes.
right?
All right.
Wow.
He left again.
I know.
And, not so incidentally, after John Lindsay, every mayor has claimed that he's broken with Tammany Hall. Specifically, Isidore Koch claimed that. But he didn't. All right? And so we had the bosses. Carmine DeSapio just died. And Carmine DeSapio said to every dumb wop in Greenwich Village, hey, you know what I mean? You vote for the Democratic Party. You know what I mean? And they did. And that's just the way DeSapio talked. In Brooklyn, of course, it was Meade Esposito. Hey, don't let me catch you people vote for Republicans. You vote for Democrats, you know what I mean? And they did.
But today it's changed. Now you've got the
Oh,
Republican
sure.
right,
How many
the
members?
fundamentalist rights.
How many members of the city council in New York City are Republican?
I don't know.
I think 0. It's something
Oh, in New
like
York,
40
you're
Democrats and 0
Okay.
Republicans, something like that. Okay?
Well, we shall continue with this discussion.
Yeah. So
because-
Tammany is dead, and the Catholic Church is dead, and the Catholic sheep are dead, and the kind of morons who see the Virgin Mary in a parking lot. Funny, the Jews didn't see him. Okay, didn't see her. Okay.
You know,
The
I'm going to
Protestants
link
didn't
this.
see her.
I'm going to link this to something else, and we will keep
Okay.
the discussion going. Okay.
But only
ladies and
lower
gentlemen?
class Catholics could see her, and they found her not long ago in Fresh Meadow Park. In every Sunday, a woman would appear, and she would say, "See that knot in the tree? That's the Virgin Mary."
No, what conditioning can do is how you see the Divine Mother. So maybe there's some cultures where she's bare-breasted, George. Would you be open to that? To see the vision
That's
of the
not.
Divine Mother? if
They
she's
never. The
bare-breasted?
Virgin Mary will never appear bare-breasted. That's some
Look,
other
don't
goddess.
listen to the Catholic Church.
Now
so
that
much, you know,
other
you have to
goddess I
listen.
may worship, a bare-breasted one, but not the Virgin Mary. If she's clad in blue and she's got a hood, always in a kind of blue
The
color.
Orthodox put her in red, but that's another story. So I think we're going to wrap up this exciting episode.
See, that's the
Farther
trouble
down.
with the Greek Orthodox. They don't have a Virgin Mary who appears miraculously and orders them what to do.
Just a
That's
second.
the problem.
We're going to look into this, okay? So
Okay.
this is going to be posted, and any comments, give them. And look at Joe Vittello, The Boy Who Saw the Virgin. That's a show I did a couple years ago. In the 1 month that I took from the 4 years that I was in India. So thanks.
And you know who the old Greek Orthodox have on Manoah? They have a bare-breasted goddess. Now that I could go for. Okay? All
Okay.
right?
Bye. So we'll end this stream.
All right.
That was a great show. I enjoyed it.
No, that's all right. I figured learn stuff over this morning, see what's going on.
All right.
You want to play back a few seconds?